Welcome to the Micronaut podcast. I am your host, Sergio del Amo. I am here today again with Álvaro Sánchez-Mariscal. How are you, Álvaro?
I'm very good, thank you. Hi, Sergio. How are you?
Good, good. How was Devox Morocco?
It was great. It's an amazing conference full of people, great content, several Micronaut talks, and GraalVM. So, yeah, definitely an awesome event.
I was jealous looking at the pictures in Twitter of the awesome venue. So, yeah, absolutely looked fantastic. We are here today to talk about a new module that we introduced in Micronaut 3.7.0, which we released several weeks ago. 2 weeks, I believe. And Álvaro has done most of the development of the module, so I think will be a perfect person to talk about Micronaut Object Storage. So before talking about that, let's cover the agenda, Álvaro. And for agenda, we have actually many upcoming talks. So first of all, this week we have a free online webinar with George truly and the nice folks of MicroStream. MicroStream is a really interesting, persistent alternative for building Micronaut applications. And as I said, it's a 1 hour free online webinar, so it should be easy to fit in your schedules. It's October the 13th at 10 a.m. Central Time. That's for Europeans. That's 4 p.m. I believe. And if you are in the States, then that's 10 a.m. Next week, we have Graham in Java 1 together with Bart Bedwith. They have, I believe, 3 talks combining both Micronaut and GraalVM and also Micronaut data. So if you are lucky enough to be in Java 1 next week, don't hesitate to contact Graham and learn more about Micronaut. Then 2 weeks from now, the 24th and the 25th, there is GCon Prague, where I will be giving a talk about Micronaut Turbo. And the folks of Aura Pulse, Vladimir and Simon, they have also 2 talks about Micronaut as well. So if you are in Prague at the end of October, please say hello. And then you have a talk in Belgrade. Can you describe what the talk is about and the dates, Álvaro?
Yeah, so it's the 2 and 3 of November. No, it's actually 3 and 4 in Serbia. And it's the conference is HipCom, and I will be talking about Micronaut, like an intro talk.
Yeah, I've been one in Belgrade in my life, and it's awesome. So I'm sure you will enjoy the city, and there are great developers there. We actually have many people from Serbia now working on the Micronaut Oracle team. So
exactly, yes.
Maybe you have a chance to say hello in person to them.
I will meet them, yes.
Then we have 2 online training events. I will be teaching a Micronaut data online training event the 7th and the 10th, between the 7th and the 10th. So we typically do 4 hours a day, 3 days. So that will be 12 hours. And my colleague Zachary Klein, who will be teaching a event-driven microservices with Micronaut training event. Also 4 hours a day, 3 days, the following week. So that will be between the 14th and the 17th. So we have, as you can see, a packed agenda for the upcoming month. So hopefully you are able to, one of these conferences near you and you are able to attend. And if not, we have like this week, the MicroStream webinar and those trainings in November, Micronaut data and event-driven microservices. Those are online. So hopefully those are possible for you. Without further ado, Álvaro, let's move into the main topic. Can you explain to the listeners what Micronaut Object Storage is?
So the goal is to provide a uniform API to create multi-cloud applications that use object storage, because we already had object storage support for in the cloud modules, like for example in Micronaut AWS you could use the S3 API, and the same for Azure, Google and Oracle Cloud. But you will have to use the different APIs of the cloud SDKs. So the goal of the object storage module is to provide common API for all cloud vendors, so that you can either use it in a multi-cloud way, so literally the same code for all providers. This will be possible if you are obviously using, like common operations that are present in all vendors. For whatever else, you can always get down to the Cloud SDK level and use, cloud-specific types and methods to customize the work you're doing. So it's while you can do like a multi-cloud application, you can always drill down and get into the actual cloud SDK details. So that's essentially the goal. And the operations that we offer at the moment are like the basics, like creating objects, reading objects, deleting objects, that sort of thing. At the moment is everything related to the object API. There are plans to support bucket or management operations. That's in the roadmap. So yeah, that's essentially what it does.
So for those who never heard about object storage, the idea here is the cloud solution for saving static files, right? So if you want to, if your application, for example, you give your users the ability to upload a profile picture, a JPEG or a PNG, and you want to save it somewhere, the best thing to do will be to use one of these object storage solutions and to put those bytes there, right? Or if your application, for example, has the typical export all my data and I will send you an email once the data is ready, and I will send you like a link to a huge CSV file or something like that. So that's kind of place where you will save all those bytes. That's what typically cloud vendors refers to object storage. The most famous one probably is AWS S3, but which clouds do we support, Álvaro?
Is the four major clouds: Amazon S3, Azure Blob Storage, Google Cloud Storage, and Oracle Cloud Object Storage.
So the way it works is, so as Álvaro said, right now, the API currently doesn't deal with the creation of buckets. You will typically have like a bucket, or think about it. I typically think about it like a folder, right, in these object storage solutions. So you will create like one of these buckets to save your files there, and you add that to configuration, right?
You can configure multiple object storages in your application, but normally you will have like a single one. And for each of them, you can configure the essentially bucket name and any other potential custom properties for each provider. But at the moment, I think it's essentially the bucket name.
If you configure only one, you can just inject what is the name of the class is
object storage operations.
So you can inject you can inject a bin of that particular type in your controllers, in your singletons. If you have multiple, you will have to use a qualifier to distinguish between them.
Exactly.
Right?
You will use @name to specify which one you want. And object storage operations is the parent interface. But if you're not interested in multi-cloud, you can inject AWS storage operations or Azure storage operations, etc.
And the common operations that Álvaro were describing are something like you have like a Micronaut controller which receives file upload, and you have something like a completed file upload object, and you are able like to go from that object to get the bytes and essentially put them into a bucket. All these solutions, they typically, essentially, you need like a unique key, right?
Mm-hmm.
For saving in the object storage buckets. What will be the flow for the users? They will typically like inject this class into their service or their controller,
right?
Generate a unique key, and then we give them basically the API to save them without. They don't have to know basically the inner workings of the API, right?
Exactly. So there's like two main flows. One is uploading a file into an object storage. Now the question is, where is the file coming from? So if the file is coming from the end user, like an HTTP client, in your controller you will have normally like a stream file. So there are utility methods to convert from both stream file and system file into object storage type, and then you will upload that to the actual cloud that you're interested in. And the other flow would be like to download a file from cloud storage, and you can again convert that into an HTTP response easily, right? So yes, there is like support for integrating from Micronaut upload and download file types for you to do that easily.
And also, just to hammer the point that Álvaro said, so we have like utility methods if you are like receiving the file in a controller, but if you are not, so if you are like creating, I don't know, like a CSV content of a CSV file manually, you can like operate with byte array. So
yes,
it's basically whatever you can transform to a byte array, you are able to save in one of these object storage solutions. Álvaro didn't mention, but we also support like delete, as you can imagine. So we support upload a file, download the file, and delete the file. If you are like getting nervous because you want like to access your cloud-specific details, don't be, because all of our methods, they have like a method version which takes a consumer. So you are able like to customize. I don't know if you need to like set a specific flag in the file that your cloud vendor supports. We give you that ability, right? So the idea is that we basically take care of the common operation, the things that you are always having to do. But if you need to go specific, you absolutely can. And as Álvaro said, you can choose either to inject object storage operation or Oracle Cloud Object Storage operation or AWS S3 storage operation. So that's you choose if you want to go like more cloud specific or more cloud neutral. In your code, apart from what you described about handling buckets, what other things are in the roadmap for object storage, Álvaro?
So at the moment, as you mentioned, we have upload, retrieve, delete, but also exist. So you can check the existence of an object with retrieving it, list objects, and copy. We can copy within the same bucket from one key to another key. And in the roadmap, essentially, the idea is to, there are a few things that we may want to go. One is to have like a bucket or container management API, so that you can not only deal with objects within a bucket, but also to manage like the creation of a bucket itself, creation, deletion, etc. We also want to introduce a reactive version of object storage operations, because at the moment, the methods have like a blocking API. That doesn't necessarily mean that the actual implementation is blocking, because some of the SDKs are by default async. But we didn't expose that into a non-blocking API with a publisher. So there will be like a publisher variant of object storage operations in the next release. And the another addition that we will add to the API is the ability to essentially, we will extend the resource loader mechanism of Micronaut. The resource loader mechanism of Micronaut is something that can convert from a specific string, like for example, when you say class path : and then a path, there is a resource loader already present that will search for a class path resource on the class path. So the same is for a file. So you would say file : and then path for the file system. So we want to do the same for cloud storage. object storage. So you could say, like, for instance, S3 colon and then bucket / key, and you will be able to refer to a cloud storage file in a nested way. So that's essentially it, and also like the streaming file upload object, which is like core Micronaut type. We will implement like an object storage specific version, so you can directly retrieve a streaming file upload, which is backed by object storage as well.
So that there will be even less code in in the user.
Exactly.
Resource loader is a great tip. It's an API that we don't talk a lot about, but as Álvaro said, so if you build your application and you have like a CSV file under source main resources, you can essentially read it by doing like resource loader load class path my CSV file, and that will essentially give you, I think it gives you like an input stream of the file. And then you can do whatever you want to do with that file. So that's a really, that's having the ability of loading remote files. I think that's great for applications, because we see many times that people like have configuration that they ship in custom files, or like some theming of the application.
Right, and also the point is that there are sometimes where, for example, you you may want to retrieve an object from the object storage just with the purpose of giving it back to the client, right? So in that case, you shouldn't consume the input stream. So essentially taking the file from the cloud and then creating a local file in the server just with the purpose of returning it to the client is
wasteful.
Is wasteful, yes. So it should be like the cloud input stream all the way down to the client without anything else.
Yeah, makes absolute sense. Apart from, so to learn about the module, as all the Micronaut modules, if you go to docs.micronaut.io, if you search for object storage, you will find it is in the section, I think it's in the cloud category. But yeah, go to docs.micronaut.io, and if you click there in Micronaut Object Storage, you will find what we refer to as the reference documentation, which has like an explanation about how to use it. But also it has like API, which is the Java docs documentation, and configuration reference, which is configurations that comes directly from our code. So I will always say that configuration is, you can trust that those things in that configuration, those are the source of truth. That's coming directly from the code. Apart from that, Álvaro has written several Micronaut guides. Guides are these step-by-step tutorials. Can you talk me more about those?
Yeah, so there are guides for AWS, Google Cloud, and Azure. And they, like you said, is like a step-by-step tutorial about uploading a file to object storage, retrieving a file from there, and then deleting a file with the configuration specifics for each cloud, and tests to how to test that. So it's a complete source of information for people wanting to learn about the module. So there is like a quick start guide in the object storage module documentation itself, which showcases all the operations. But the guides are like a different way of learning about the module.
Yeah, the guides are kind of more like a tutorial, and the other ones are more like documentation,
reference documentation,
reference documentation. So you will see more code in a guide, and you will see like more like I don't know, like to use object storage, you have to add this dependency. You will see typically those things more in the reference documentation, and also like more information about configuration settings that are available for you. So yeah, always have check them both. They should be complementary. Of course, I will include links to the Micronaut guides, the object storage Micronaut guides in the tutorials. And the last thing that I wanted to mention about how to try this thing is we have features in Micronaut Starter as well, right, Álvaro?
Yes. So at the moment we have one feature per cloud provider until we have this cloud provider selection in the UI, which is upcoming. So, but at the moment there are like object storage AWS, object storage GCP, etc. So one per each cloud provider, and that will give you the dependencies you need for each cloud, which is essentially like a single it's a single module. But for example, for the AWS, we also have like a dependency on the AWS SDK v2, same for Oracle Cloud. So well, it's like a no-brainer way to add the dependency.
This module builds on top of the cloud-specific modules, if you want to say that, which those cloud-specific modules, they allow you to like inject the cloud SDK clients in a Micronaut way, so they are part of the Bean context, and you can like inject like an S3 client into your singletons. And yeah, I will include links to Micronaut Launch, which will essentially like create an application with object storage in the different clouds already selected for you. An important bit is that when we talk about Micronaut Launch, every feature available in Micronaut Launch is available on Micronaut CLI. So if you are like a command line person, they are actually using the same code. So every feature that we support in one is supported in the other. And if you are like using IntelliJ, I think it's only available in the Ultimate Edition. If you go to IntelliJ new project, they have like a wizard that is also using Micronaut Launch API. So you can select those features as well in IntelliJ. So those are the three of the easiest ways to like start a Micronaut project, and they all support like using this object storage feature.
And there is a fourth way, which is Visual Studio Code and the GraalVM extension pack, which will give you like a wizard for Micronaut projects as well.
Correct. Thank you for pointing that. I always forget about the Visual Studio Code integration, which many people, we see many people using Visual Studio Code and being extremely happy. So that's fantastic that we have support. Is there anything else that you would like to point people to about object storage?
I think we've covered mostly everything, so I encourage people to try it out. If you have existing code using the cloud specific SDKs, like the Amazon S3 client, I recommend migrating them over the object storage API, and then there's one thing less you have to worry about. So you can upload the burden of the actual implementation to us, and it will give you like easier migration paths in the future. If there's something, some specific operation or some specific details of an operation that you will have to get supported, please raise an issue. Like whatever is common in in most of the providers is already implemented. Like for example, for an upload request, we support metadata as a map of strings, string to string. Content type, content length, that sort of thing, which is present in all the providers, is already implemented. For things that are cloud specific, like for instance the S3 ACL policy, you'll have to use the object storage S3 implementation. But other than that, we've covered like the majority of the actual details of both a request and response.
Yeah, what Álvaro said is absolutely true. If we did our job right, hopefully you should be able to take your Micronaut application, which is already using the cloud providers, object storage SDKs, and hopefully delete a bunch of code from your application. And as Álvaro said, if you find anything that we could be doing better, or you have any ideas, most, if not all of our repos, they have both GitHub issues and GitHub discussions. So if you want to write something about the module which you don't think it fits 100% into an issue, GitHub discussions is a great place because they are kind of forum Q&A threaded conversations, which is nice to have them in the context of the repo of object storage, because then if there are issue, we can like create an issue from a conversation. So yeah, those are a preferred place to have them. And with object storage out of the way, let's move to sponsors. So we have quite big news about the sponsors. So we recently announced 2 new sponsors. One is Oracle, which actually became our first engineering partner of the Micronaut Foundation. So that's great news. The Oracle Labs Micronaut team have been contributing to the framework so much for so long that it was great to have them as an official sponsor into the Micronaut Foundation. So that's fantastic news for all of us involved into the framework, and hopefully it gives also like people using the framework more confidence that there are like big companies such as Oracle contributing engineering time to the framework, and that's of course is a good sign that the framework will be stable and with a secure future going forward. And we announced another sponsor, which is -Q. -Q is a company who is doing really great in the IoT space, and they are now a bronze sponsor of the Micronaut Foundation. I hope to have Jochen here in the Micronaut podcast to talk more about -Q in the future. They are like themselves Micronaut users, so they use Micronaut for some of their internal applications, and it's great to see like companies who are like using the framework becoming sponsors of the framework, because as I was saying before with the Oracle sponsorship, the more companies that contribute to support open source, the higher the best, the more healthy ecosystem we have. So welcome both Oracle and -Q to the Micronaut Foundation sponsors family, and let me thank the other sponsors. So we have Object Computers, which is the ambassador sponsor of the Micronaut Foundation. We have Microstream, the folks with whom I will be talking on Thursday. They are also a sponsor of the Micronaut Foundation. They are a silver sponsor. We have 2 other bronze sponsors in addition to -Q, Safri.net and Visor Games, Oracle, our engineering partner, and Gradle Enterprise and IntelliJ, our tool and infrastructure partners. So thanks a lot to all of them. Without your support, the podcast and the framework will not be possible. With all of these, I think we have a nice and shorter episode than usual, which is sometimes the best. Is there anything else that you would like to point people to, Álvaro?
No, just some words about the Oracle sponsorship. So for us, it's great to contribute to keep contributing to the framework. Is a recognition of the effort that we've done since the last 2 years, and it's already 16 people contributing from the Oracle team directly to the framework, plus some sibling things like, for example, the GraalVM team contributing the native build tools or the Visual Studio Code extension pack. And we look forward to make Micronaut greater.
Again, welcome -Q and Oracle into the Micronaut Foundation sponsor family, and thanks everyone for listening to the episode, and we hopefully listen to each other in 2 weeks. Thank you.